Breaking news from Washington. The September 2025 Visa Bulletin has just been released, confirming a seismic shift in American immigration policy under the second Trump administration. This bulletin reveals a hardline approach, fundamentally reshaping who can enter and remain in the United States. For families, refugees, and millions already here, the rules have been rewritten. The administration claims these changes are essential for national security, while critics call it a radical departure from America's identity as a beacon of hope. Let's break down what these sweeping changes mean for the future of immigration. One of the most significant and controversial changes in recent U.S. immigration policy is a sweeping reduction in the number of refugees allowed into the country. This decision has sent shockwaves through humanitarian organizations, immigrant communities, and policy experts alike. As it marks a sharp departure from decades of American tradition, the new policy enforces a drastic reduction in refugee admissions, leaving many offices and processing centers eerily quiet. The once busy halls, where hopeful families awaited news of their future, now stand empty, a stark symbol of the new reality. For fiscal year 2026, the administration has set the refugee cap at just 7,500 people. This is not only the lowest number since the modern refugee program was established in 1980, but it also represents a dramatic policy shift. In previous years, the United States welcomed tens of thousands more, offering hope and safety to those fleeing war, persecution, and disaster. The new cap is a steep drop from the 125,000 limit set by the previous administration. For many, this change effectively closes the door to tens of thousands of people who are desperately seeking refuge. Families, who have spent years waiting in camps or living in limbo, now face even greater uncertainty, as the path to safety in America narrows to a near impossibility. This move signals a retreat from the United States' long-held role as a global leader in refugee resettlement. For decades, the U.S. has been a beacon of hope for those fleeing violence and oppression, but now, that legacy is being called into question. Aid groups and humanitarian organizations have condemned the decision, arguing that it abandons the world's most vulnerable people at a time when global displacement is at record highs. They warn that the consequences will be felt not just by refugees, but by America's reputation and moral standing in the world. The administration, however, defends the move, insisting that the lower cap is necessary to focus resources, improve the vetting process, and address security concerns. Officials claim that this approach will ensure that those who are admitted are properly screened and supported. But for many watching around the world, the message is unmistakable. America's golden door, once a symbol of welcome and opportunity, is now barely open, leaving countless lives in the balance. Within the reduced refugee program, a controversial priority has emerged. The U.S. administration has decided to allocate a significant portion of the limited refugee slots to white South African Afrikaners. This decision has sparked a heated debate, both domestically and internationally. The policy reserves a notable number of slots specifically for white South African Afrikaners, a move that has been justified by the administration as a response to the perceived threats they face in their home country. This stems from an executive order responding to South Africa's land reform policies. The administration claims that Afrikaners are at risk of genocide due to these reforms, which aim to redistribute land from white farmers to black South Africans. The first group of white South Africans arrived in May 2025, and the administration has hailed this as a rescue mission. They argue that these individuals are fleeing imminent danger and need immediate protection. However, critics argue that this focus is politically motivated and not based on objective need. They point out that there are many other persecuted groups worldwide who are equally, if not more, deserving of refugee status. South African officials and human rights groups have strongly disputed the genocide claims. They argue that the policy is a distortion of reality and that the situation in South Africa does not warrant such drastic measures. By prioritizing Afrikaners, the U.S. has injected a contentious racial dynamic into its refugee policy. This has led to accusations of racial bias and favoritism, further complicating the already complex issue of immigration. The move has strained diplomatic relations and drawn condemnation from African leaders. They argue that the U.S. is undermining efforts to address historical injustices and is instead perpetuating racial divisions. This selective approach undermines the impartiality of the refugee system. It raises questions about the criteria used to determine who is deserving of refuge and whether political considerations are overshadowing humanitarian needs. The focus of immigration enforcement has shifted from the border to the nation's interior. Border apprehensions have dropped to a 55-year low, but enforcement hasn't slowed, it's just moved inward. For the first time in over a decade, interior deportations by ICE are set to surpass border apprehensions. Over 340,000 people have been deported from within the U.S. this year. The new battleground is no longer the border, but workplaces and neighborhoods across all 50 states. This strategy targets millions who have lived in the U.S. for years. Immigration enforcement is now a daily reality far from the border. Deportations have accelerated rapidly with over 400,000 people removed in just 250 days. The administration has officially ended catch and release. Migrants are now detained until deported, with few exceptions. This shift means almost no one is released while awaiting court hearings. The targets are broad. Many deportees have no criminal history and deep ties to their communities. Even minor infractions can now trigger deportation proceedings. The new reality: detention and removal are swift, and the risk of deportation is higher than ever. To support mass deportations, immigration detention has expanded dramatically, with 60,000 people now held in ICE centers. The profile of detainees has shifted. Over a third now have no criminal record, held solely for immigration violations. Release rates have collapsed from 26% to just 3% in 1 year. For most, detention is now the final stop before removal. The administration's detain and remove approach means 90% of detainees are deported directly from custody. Access to legal counsel is limited and rapid proceedings make defense nearly impossible. Detention is no longer temporary, it's a fast track to deportation. The system is designed for speed, not second chances. The administration's control now stretches far beyond the nation's borders, reaching into the lives of millions around the globe and reshaping the very idea of who is welcome in America. With a single policy announcement, the landscape of international travel and migration has shifted dramatically. In June 2025, a sweeping new travel ban was enacted, targeting 12 countries, most of them in Africa and the Middle East. The move sent shockwaves through international communities, as families, students, and professionals suddenly found themselves cut off from opportunities and loved ones in the United States. Entry is now barred for nearly all nationals from these countries, regardless of their reasons for travel. Tourists with long-standing plans, students accepted to American universities, and even those hoping to reunite with family members have seen their hopes dashed at the border. The ban has left airports eerily quiet, with departure boards filled with canceled flights and families separated by thousands of miles. Critics, both at home and abroad, have condemned the ban as discriminatory and deeply damaging to America's reputation as a land of opportunity. Protests have erupted in major cities, with demonstrators demanding justice and an end to what many see as a policy rooted in fear and exclusion. International news outlets have questioned whether the U.S. is turning its back on its founding ideals. At the same time, the administration has quietly rescinded protections for sensitive locations like schools, hospitals, and places of worship. These were once considered sanctuaries, spaces where vulnerable people could seek help or education without fear of immigration enforcement. Now ICE agents are permitted to operate freely in these spaces. The presence of law enforcement in schools and hospitals has become a new normal, erasing the boundaries that once offered a sense of security to immigrant communities. For immigrant families, daily life is now shadowed by anxiety. Parents are afraid to send their children to school, fearing they may not return home. Many hesitate to seek medical care even in emergencies, worried that a hospital visit could lead to detention or deportation. The fear is palpable, and it touches every aspect of their lives. College campuses and community centers, once vibrant hubs of learning and support, are no longer off-limits for enforcement. Students and community members now navigate these spaces with caution, uncertain of when or where enforcement actions might occur. The chilling effect is profound. No place feels safe anymore. The sense of sanctuary that once defined these spaces has vanished, replaced by a climate of fear and uncertainty that stretches from the border to the heart of every affected community. This immigration overhaul is powered by unprecedented funding, $45 billion for new detention centers and $30 billion for enforcement operations. The administration is building a permanent, powerful enforcement apparatus, but as funding has surged, transparency has vanished. The Department of Homeland Security has stopped releasing detailed data on arrests, detentions, and deportations. Information is now tightly controlled, with only selective statistics shared. This lack of transparency makes it nearly impossible to hold the government accountable or assess the true impact of these policies. The combination of immense power and diminished oversight is, for many, the most alarming change of all.